Hello everybody, I'm Raphael Perry and it's time for some more Golden Dragon. I almost said Bloodsword, but I didn't do it. So now, obviously, but hey, avoided it then. So, we're back here with Crypt of the Vampire, obviously. I just want to point out before I begin, yesterday, maybe the day before, no, I think it was yesterday, essentially, well, that's after midnight, day before yesterday then technically, I discovered that after 9 years of waiting and hoping, there finally will be a PC port of Until Dawn. And I'll finally be able to play it, except I won't. I went and checked the system requirements and it's fallen into the same trapdoor as Hellblade 2 and Black Myth Wukong, in that my computer doesn't meet one of the requirements, and it might be a while before I can afford a proper upgrade or even a new PC. Now, I've had this computer for about 6 years now, and it probably is time I started looking at getting a new one. However, you see, the last time my computer was dying a death and I had to get a replacement, I was holding out for Elder Scrolls 6. Yeah, about 6 years ago. Because it was the correct amount of years. If you looked at the time from, like, you know, Arena to Daggerfall to Morrowind to Oblivion to Skyrim, it was obvious that, you know, Elder Scrolls 6 should be coming out around that point in time. Except Bethesda went and made The Elder Scrolls Online as an excuse to never make another Elder Scrolls game ever again. Yeah, I know they've made the kind of mobile game tie-in stuff, but it doesn't really count, you know. Anyway, my point is that typically, when a main Elder Scrolls game would come out, it would mean time to buy a new PC, because Bethesda liked to have really high system requirements, and you basically needed a new computer to run it. However, at that point in time, I was waiting for the next Elder Scrolls game to come out, so I could see the system requirements, so I would know what my computer would need. And they didn't make it. And they still haven't made it. Allegedly, they're going to start working on it at some point. It's been announced. They haven't actually started working on it yet. They're doing all their Starfall shit, or whatever it is. I don't know. So essentially, of course, I still don't know what the next supercomputer is going to need. And in all honesty, by the time my next computer has cacked it and needs a replacement, they probably still won't have brought it out. So I'm not sure it's worth holding off much longer. But there we are. So, yeah. It wasn't the processor this time. It was the processor for Hellblade 2 and the game that is blatantly monkey, although it's a Soulsborne game anyway, so I'd probably hate the combat. This time, it was the graphics card, actually, that wasn't quite powerful enough. So, yeah, I may have to look into getting a new computer game at some point. I've got Until Dawn on the wish list, and I've always said, I've been saying for like the last 9 years now, if Until Dawn gets a PC port, I can't wait for those whatever you do, don't touch the keyboard tests. Right? Or whatever you do, don't move the mouse. Keep the keyboard completely still and don't move it. Just let it stay there on the desk. Don't do anything. Make sure the keyboard does not move at all. None of the keys on the keyboard. I suspect they might do something similar to the heartbeat tests in the Dark Pictures series for the stay still tests, or force you to buy a controller. And another thing I've been saying for those 9 years is, if Until Dawn ever comes to the PC, it might be the only thing that ever persuades me to finally buy a controller. So, it could still happen, and I might end up having to use one of those wanky little things that hurts your hands and feels like they're being bent and broken out of all kind of semblance of their natural shape. It's just really horrible. I don't understand how people call that those ergonomic designs. They're really horrible. Anyway. Plus, you got, like, you know, so many keys on the keyboard. Like 40 or 50 keys. What's the point of a controller with, like, 4 buttons on it? You know, okay, well, maybe a few more now as some of the more advanced ones. But yeah, sure. Anyway, I will be interested in getting my hands on the PC version of Until Dawn and Hellblade 2 and Black Myth Wukong as soon as I can. It just might take a long time because I am very poor and I have to save up to buy things. Anyway, back to the adventure. Last time, our heroine Alicia had arrived at the mansion. Was it Wistron Wood or Wildron Wood? I can't remember. Wait. Wistron Wood. Fine, yeah. I can't remember the name of the mansion. It was for something mansion. Something Hall, wasn't it? The vampire's surname, then Hall. And I can't remember his surname, but it was something to do with darkness. We have discovered a lantern, a golden helmet, and a crucifix. Now, when I was offered by the priest the choice between the crucifix and the potion of iron will, or the potion of the iron mind, whatever it was, I probably should have said to myself, hey Raph, come on. The crucifix is a little bit more generic. You might be able to find another one somewhere else. This potion is much more unique. If you find, like, the dead body of a previous adventurer, they might have a different potion on them. Chances are you won't find this one again. I hope I haven't made a bad choice that will condemn me. Ideally, both the items will be equally viable at different points in the adventure, and neither will be absolutely required to complete it. Also, she does have a good psychic ability, so she may be able to resist something that the potion of iron will could protect her from, unless it's automatically required and you are screwed if you don't have it. So anyway, you find a short flight of steps that lead down to a cellar door. Do you have a lantern? If not, you will have no light to see by. You must go back and try the door with the crucifix symbol in the hope of finding a lantern there. If you already have a lantern, you hold it aloft and descend the steps to open the cellar door. We do indeed have a lantern. So down the steps we shall go into darkness. Was it like Tenebrous, Lord Tenebron Hall or something? Sounds familiar. You swing the beam. Right, I'll do that again. You swing the beam of your lantern around the small room. There are cracks full of bottles of wine in the walls. They are hideous and huge. The whole place looks like it's going to fall down, but those bottles are propping it up. Oh yeah, better not take any of those out. All right, let's do. Okay, section 82. You swing the beam of your lantern around the small room. There are racks full of bottles of wine which have lain unopened and gathering dust for more than a score of years. Another door in the opposite wall is barred shut. Will you cross the room and open this door, or will you first sample the wine? Well, hey, just to point out a few things here. We're in the house of a vampire. We're in a vampire's house. Here are all these bottles full of red stuff. Who in their right mind is going to say, you know what I fancy? A bit of that stuff in one of them there. Yeah, all right. No, it might not even be wine. In fact, it's probably not wine. Do you think he has victims on hand whenever he's thirsty? No, he probably stores some of the stuff, you know. And if it's white wine, why would he have white wine? He can look at the red wine and pretend it's blood. Or maybe it's all white wine so that he doesn't get confused and think it's blood. But why do we want to get drunk? This is a life and death situation. Maybe a bit of Dutch courage? Perhaps. But perhaps it would behove us to keep our senses about us and not neck a bottle full of red stuff when we don't even know what our blood group is. You lift the heavy oak beam and pull back the door. The hinges have obviously not been oiled for a long time. There is an ominous creak as the door swings open. You pass through into a corridor. After a short distance, you come to a door in the wall to your right. There appears to be an opening on the other side of the corridor, just a few meters further on. We could open the door or go on. My gut feeling is this is a single room, not a whole series of chambers or passageways leading off. Let's open it. The room beyond the door has whitewashed walls and black rafters crisscrossing the low ceiling. To judge by the four-poster bed against one wall, it is presumably someone's bedroom, but you see no sign of the occupant. A long table to the right of the door is strewn with a number of runic manuscripts, and you also notice a jug of water and a plate of bread and cold meats. A roaring fire burns in the grate, and beside it are a poker, coal scuttle, and bellows. There are 2 large candlesticks on the mantelpiece, and you step over to inspect them. They are solid silver. Remember to note them in your character sheet if you take them. They are silver. If we come up against a werewolf, we might be able to bludgeon it over the head. Or even the vampire himself, for that matter. Just then you hear a squawk. Turning, you see a hunchbacked old woman in a pointed cap and filthy robes standing in the doorway. A mangy crow is perched on her shoulder. 2 pairs of cold, hostile eyes regard you for a moment, and then the witch bangs her staff on the floor and tells you to leave her chamber at once. All you can do as she says, or refuse. It might be wise to just get out. At this point, we're not a guest. We kind of barged our way in here. And she hasn't noticed the silver candlesticks are missing yet. However, maybe we shouldn't let her boss us around. Maybe. Alicia Felbane is from a noble household, and... Aha! The crow squawks again and flies from the witch's shoulder to settle on one of the rafters. Your hand is on the hilt of your sword, but before you can react, the witch has pushed past you and hurled a grey powder into the fire. At once a thick, greasy smoke billows from the hearth. Before your startled gaze, it forms into a murky, ape-like form. "Behold how I deal with meddlesome interlopers!" shrieks the witch as she orders her smoke monster forward. Will you run for the door? Do not test for damage, but turn to 114. Stay and fight the creature, or try something else. What would we try? Well, we don't have an item that's likely to be useful, but maybe there's something in the room we can do. Is there a pair of... Why does my memory think there's a pair of bellows by the fire that we can use to pick up and... Oh, I want to try something else. I want to see what options are available. Let's do it. Tenebron, that's it. Right, okay. Your mind races as you try to think of a way to avoid combat with the smoke creature. Will you... Hey, look. Different witch. Hideous old witch you encountered earlier. Okay, so somewhere else. Grab some manuscripts from the witch's desk. And maybe threaten to throw them in the fire, or use them like a fan to seize the bellows from beside the hearth. Yeah. Offer to leave now if the witch will call off her monster. Let's grab those bellows and put them to good use. They suck and blow. We can disperse the smoke monster, surely. Snatching up the bellows, you thrust the nozzle into the heart of the miasmoid and draw its smoky essence within. The witch is so taken aback at seeing her creation thus easily vanquished that she is unable to think of a spell to use against you. As you set down the smoke-filled bellows and reach for your sword, she taps her staff and vanishes in a blaze of crimson light. The crow glares at you and, with a final defiant cry, flies off through the open door in search of its mistress. Oh, those 30-year-old memories are coming in handy. Actually, a bit more than that now. Wow. Ho, 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 ho. Okay. 171. It was 171, wasn't it? 233. Yeah, 171. Excellent. Went too far. There we are. You're alone in Witch's room. You glance around and once again you notice the bread and meat on the tray on her desk. We could eat it, or if we eat it, will she come back and get us? What are the chances that they are poisoned and she leaves them here as a trap in case anyone else comes here? Unlikely. I think this is actually her stuff. Let's tuck in and help ourselves to a light repast. We are wounded, and this seems like an opportunity to regain some health. Is it 253, 254? 4. There is no salt, making the meal rather unappetizing, but it is wholesome fare nonetheless. Restore 3 vigor points, but do not exceed your normal vigor score. Well then, that knocks us back up to 20. Now, we're feeling in slightly better shape. Okay. If you wish, you may now search the room, or we could prefer to leave. Let's search it. We're here. Sure. We might find something useful. Hey, that looks like the elf we met earlier. I'm sure we might stand a chance of encountering that painting at some point. That room... illustration looks like it's for a different section. Okay. So I won't look at it too much. By which I mean won't put it on the screen like that so you can all look at it there. You scour the room for some secret treasure cache or magical item that the witch may have hidden away but can find nothing. As you stand, panting amid the confusion of torn sheets, scattered bed papers and broken cupboards caused by your frenzied search, it occurs to you to try the fireplace. You douse the fire with a jug of water from the desk and use the poker to sweep the glowing coals from the grate. You peer up the chimney. There is a cool breeze on your face and you think you may be able to see starlight far above you. Will you try to climb up inside the chimney? Or have you decided it is now time to leave and continue your exploration of the crypt? Do I think we can climb all the way up to the top of the chimney? No. Do I think there might be something part way up the chimney, like a secret compartment, like a few bricks removed and on the side? Yeah, let's try it and hope we don't get stuck. This search is going all in here. It is an arduous climb, and you are soon black with soot. As you struggle upwards, you realise that it is indeed the night sky which you can see at the top. Then your foot slips as you dislodge a loose brick. Roll 2 dice. If the score is less than or equal to your agility, oh, it's likely to be greater, isn't it? Okay. Oh, you know what I didn't do? Didn't open up rolls. Okay, one moment. And now we have rolls up. Yeah! Okay, let's roll 2 dice. Six is higher than 5. Okay, I think we're going to take a tumble or scrape our knee or something or worse. Right, okay. Glad we had a nice meal, but we're going to come down with a nasty bump while trying to digest. You lose your grip and plummet down the chimney, landing heavily on your leg with your leg twisted under you. Your first attempt at moving sends a flare of pain up your leg. You're able to continue on your way once you have bandaged your sprained ankle, but it will hamper your movement from now on, reduce your agility score by 1 point. Dispirited, you leave the room. Well, we did not get to find anything up the chimney. It's possible there's something up there if we had succeeded that roll. Honestly, can't... I think there is something up there, but we don't get it now. Oh well. Thus is the way of adventure. Fortune and misfortune in equal measure. And the bellows full of smoke monster are still going to be in the room there. You continue along the corridor as far as the archway in the left-hand wall. Ahead of you, the corridor continues for another 10 meters or so and then opens into a large room. We can step through the archway on the left or pass straight on to the large room at the end of the corridor. Right, here's the thing. If the archway, let's pretend this central section is the archway, and we've had the witch's room on the right down here, big chamber up ahead. If the archway is a passageway leading off like this, and the big room up ahead is a dead end, we'd want to go and explore that first, then come back and... But no, let's just take the archway on the left, and hopefully it won't be too far, and then we can come back up to the chamber at the end. We'll find out if there's a point of no return at some point, but for now, passing through the archway, you enter some sort of evil chapel. It is hung with drapes of black velvet, which are decorated with strange runic designs. Hey, we saw this recently. On the altar stone, there is a pewter chalice containing a dark red liquid. If you wish to drink this, then remember what I said about the wine earlier. Alternatively, you may search the altar, or snuff out the black candles which burn on either side of it. Probably a good idea to extinguish the candles before searching the altar, as they are clearly evil, and we don't want them affecting us. If you prefer, you may leave this unholy place and hurry on to the end of the corridor. Let's extinguish the candles, and hope that their wicked burning wasn't actually preventing something from manifesting. A wisp of blue smoke rises from the wick as you snuff out the first candle. Roll a die. If you roll a 1 or 2, you breathe in this vapour. If you roll a 3 to 6, you manage to avert your face. Completely random. We did not breathe it in. And now we know that's likely to happen from the second one. We can probably avoid it too. You may now examine the altar, or go along the corridor to investigate the room at the far end. See, we still have our lantern. We don't need to worry about the darkness. Let's investigate the altar, because there might be something useful here. Roll a die. 1 to 3, 4 to 6. That is extremely random. I don't like how random that is. We get a 6. Wow. I don't like how random it is because... Right. The roll being this random either means it's not that important and it's fairly minor, it's not crucial, or it means you're placing something incredibly crucial behind an extremely random dice roll with equal odds of either result. Fighting Fantasy, is it Spellbreaker? There's a random dice roll, which at best is like a 4+ or 5+ near the beginning of the adventure. If you don't make that roll, you're rather screwed. Well, no, you're not, but it really helps if you do. And there's things you can do to influence it, but it's a really hard dice roll, and at the best, it's like a 1 in 3, maybe a 50-50. Right, so 158, 185, not 158. There we go. You find a hidden panel at the back of the altar and pull out a piece of blue-white marble carved in the shape of a bone. If you wish to take this, note it on your character sheet. Interesting. That seems like it might be a very useful item. It also feels like we shouldn't have had a random roll to find it. Or at least it shouldn't have been so... We can probably get by without it, it'll just be a bit harder. You leave the altar chamber and go on to the end of the corridor. There we go. We have now entered the larger chamber. Ooh, hello, hello. Lots of portraits. One looking very stereotypically vampiric. The others looking a little more fuller of figure. Oh, he's got a skull. Yeah, this looks like a whole family of evil people. And that one looks pretty ghoulish, as it is. You see double doors at the other end of a long gallery. As you walk over to these, you notice that at the portraits that adorn... As you walk over to these, you glance at the portraits that adorn the side walls. They show a succession of dissolute nobles, each more depraved looking than the last. The final portrait of the 13th Lord Tenebron, according to the copper plaque below it, shows a person of such obvious and overwhelming evil that you almost gasp aloud. You step back next to a body on the floor. You had not noticed this, hidden in the shadows as it is, and as you stoop over it, you see that it is the skeleton of a long-dead knight clad in rusting plate armour. His sword, however, has not rusted. It has a blade of shimmering blue metal, and there is a huge amethyst set into the pommel. If you wish to take this sword, I think we absolutely should. The amethyst and the shimmering blue metal gives the impression it is a magic sword. We can ignore it and go through the double doors. Sure. We could, but we're not going to. This sword looks very fanciful indeed. You heft the dead knight's sword and slice it through the air a couple of times, marvelling at its excellent balance. Of the two swords you now possess, this and your original weapon, you must decide which to carry and fight with, and which you will sling on your back as a spare. Note this on your character sheet. You swing open the double doors and walk through into the next room. Well... I mean, we're going to use the knight's sword, right? It's obviously a beautiful weapon, belonged to a hero, didn't do him many favours when he came here to face the vampire, and we don't know what did him in that corridor. But I hardly think that we're going to walk into a room facing a monster, raise the sword, and the amethyst set into the pommel is going to reflect the light and hypnotise us or something like that. That'd be an interesting trap magic sword, wouldn't it? Right. Okay, wow. 251. There we are. The high-ceilinged room you are in seems to have been a dining hall at some time in the past. Presumably no one uses it now, because the old oak table in front of you is thick with dust, and cobwebs veil the goblets of wine that have been left there. Unfinished, then, if we know what was in them. Stone steps lead up from either side of the room to doors in the opposite wall. Between them, above the hearth, hangs a large painting depicting a man with a longbow standing beside an archery butt. Oh! I've just remembered. These words here kind of confirmed it. A forest is visible in the background. As you walk across the room, you are startled by a sudden movement. The man in the arrow puts up his bow and shoots. The arrow, which tears into your shoulder, is real enough, and you do not waste any time staring in disbelief as the man draws another from his quiver. Lose 2 vigour points of the wound and choose your next action. Oh! Now, this 20 healed up from a 17. See, that's tricky. I should just take it back down to the 18, but it's a 20 healed up to a 17, so it's a separate wound. So 18. It's weird. No, I'll just do it. There we go. I'm not playing maelstrom, so I don't need to track wounds separately. Right. Duck for cover behind the table. Charge up the painting and hit it with your sword. Hurl your lantern at the painting. Seize a goblet of wine from the table and splash its contents across the painting. Something tells me that is actually the correct option. The wine causes the paint to run. Sure, I'll grab a goblet of wine and chuck it while he's reloading. Clearly I'm near to the painting and not far away. Wine splashes over the painting and causes the colours to run together. The figure knocks on another arrow and shoots, but his aim is blurred now. Throw 1 die. On a roll of 1 or 2, he manages to hit you and you lose 2 vigour points. On a roll of 3 or more, his shot goes wide. Let's do that. Oh, excellent. Wow, now he's got sticky dice. Bloody hell. The shot goes wide indeed. If you're still alive, you may run up the steps to the left-hand door or the right-hand door. Lacking further knowledge, left is best. Here we go. The passage beyond the door goes straight on for a couple of meters and then twists sharply to the left, so away from the one on the right. Where it turns, there is a small wooden door on the right-hand side. You decide to ignore this. Why? And instead follow the passage. Probably because it's a shortcut back, so if we'd taken one to the right, we would come through that door to get to here. So it's a way of avoiding redundancy and going back and forth and looping back through the same areas, I presume. Okay. You continue along the passageway until it emerges into a corridor with empty iron torch brackets along the walls. Looking to the left, you see that the corridor ends in a door with a gold handle in the shape of an open hand. That's going to hold my hand and grab me if I try and open it, isn't it? To the right, the corridor twists on out of sight. Will you go left and try the door, or advance along the corridor to your right? You know what? I will try the door. And hope it's not what I think it is. Some kind of magic hand-crushing trap. Ah, it's not. You step through the doorway into a room paved with a mosaic floor. An old man in a black tunic and white robe sits at a table in the centre of the room, illuminated by an amber radiance which has no obvious source. On the table in front of him there is a chessboard with its pieces laid out ready for a game. He says nothing. As you stand here looking at him, you understand that he is challenging you to a game. If you accept the unspoken challenge, turn to section 70. If you would rather leave this room and try the other branch of the corridor, turn to 242. I think we shall accept his challenge. I see a bishop, I see a knight, I see pawns in front. So this is the king's bishop. No, wait, yes. Because the king goes on his own colour. King, bishop, knight, rook. Wait. No, the king goes on his own colour. So that's queen's bishop. Have they set these up the wrong way round? Interesting. Well, we shall absolutely accept the challenge. I imagine it won't be a whole game of chess because there aren't that many sections in this book. Do we get teleported down onto the board and have to fight one of the enemy pieces or something? Oh, wait. Yeah, hang on. Ooh, because we saw the Black Queen herself. Yes. You sit down in an empty chair and seize up your opponent across the board. He has given you the white pieces and hence the first move. You reach out, intending to bring your knight into play, but the room whirls and you cannot focus on the board. The walls loom in close, then recede into the haze of distance. You find yourself on a smooth, stony plain, outside to judge by the breeze that whips your cloak about you. All around, a battle is raging. White-clad troops whom you know to serve at your command struggle against the sable ranks of the enemy. You draw your sword and stride through the mists surrounding the battlefield, hearing the war cries and the clash of steel, the shouts of triumph and the screams of the wounded. Finally, you confront the greatest warrior of your enemy's forces, the Black Queen herself. She moves towards you like a shadow, and as you desperately parry the first blow of her flanged black mace, you realize she'll be a difficult foe to beat. Seven's indeed our greatest foe yet. Well then, have at thee, bitch queen from hell. The Black Queen has a vigor score of 12. There is no escaping this battle. If we lose, the adventure continues. It might just be a you die here. You die in chess, you die in real life. Or it could be a, oh god, what's that shit film? A game of chess to the death. King Arthur, I think you've been had. Shittest Arthurian film ever. And that's saying something, because I'm including Last Night, which I would almost say is one of Sean Connery's worst films, but I know he did Zardoz, so hey, you know. Right. Man, I'm even including that awful Sir Gawain and the Green Knight film. Look, the first half of it was a very good, faithful rendition of The Legend of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. The second half was just made up fucking musketeer bollocks and communist, kill the king, kill the authority figures, fuck the system stuff that has nothing to do with the original story, and why the fuck are there even cannons in it? I mean, there aren't, but the guy talks about cannons and just sacrificing people as cannon fodder. It's like, oh yeah, just so I can get hit by the enemy cannons. It's like, right, so the Black Queen descends upon us, swinging her mace. She's got a big shield, and she's vicious and aggressive. Looks slightly Indian, actually, in terms of the headdress and the sort of facial features, like a sort of invocation of Kali, with big, moody, no, grumpy face on her knee pads. Okay. So, back up to 2 dice. Bosh. We get whacked. We get smashed with a big mace. We parried the first blow, absolutely slogged by the second. Weren't ready for that at all. Ow, that hurts. Let's fight on. That's better. Wallop! A mighty clang resounds across the battlefield as we lay a significant dent in her armour. We can get rid of that line down there as well. Right, and again, please, dice. Oof! Crash! Straight into her breastplate, forcing her down onto her knees, staggering. Let's keep this fight going. Whoop! She sweeps our legs out from under us, and we fall crashing down on her back as she stands up, levels and maces us like, stay down, dog! Oh my goodness, right, okay. Well, let's see if we can get back on our feet, back in the game. Oh yes! We roll aside as the mace comes down, leaping up and slicing out at her side. With a mighty clang against her metallic armour of chess-piece-ness, we will strike again, and she'll probably deck us. Yep, decks the living shit out of us. Okay, down to 9 endurance. We fight on. Oh, 7, yes! A veritable blow, a palpable hit, a very palpable hit. She's on the brink of defeat, but we're not far off ourselves. Let's keep that fight going. Oh, crunch! Overconfidence is a slow but sure killer. The Black Queen, not quite so slow. But now we got her. There. Defeated. Broke through her guard. Do we get to keep a chess piece from this? I think we do. White Knight? We are victorious. But at what odds? We've lost 9 vigor. Ouch. With dangers like that, I hope we will get a few more opportunities to recover some vigor. But ow, that hurt. We should be looking to avoid harm in the future. Even as the Black Queen falls at your feet, you see her and the battlefield fade away like mist. At one side point, we can't go above our maximum, meaning we could have lost some earlier. And restore your vigor to its normal score. We've recovered our wounds, and the wounds we suffered before this battle. That alone made it worth it. You're back in the room and have just beaten the old man at chess, although this is no version of chess you have ever experienced before. With a sweep of his hand, he causes all the chess pieces to vanish. Then he conjures back 3 of the white pieces, a bishop, a rook, and a knight. They now have leather thongs so that they can be worn around the neck. You may take one of these amulets. Will it be the white bishop, the white rook, or the white knight? Okay, so the bishop is the holy man, the priest. He may have power against the vampire. The rook is the the late game, end game piece that comes in with its straight line moves. Big sweeping moves that can cross the whole board in one go. And are very hard to avoid. The diagonal threat of the bishop is somewhat easier to avoid and defend against. The white knight... We have the sword of a knight already, and a golden helmet. The knight is heroic, but not as holy as the bishop. For some reason, the white knight sticks in memory, not just because of the whitish knight from, Maid Marian and her merry men. Let's go for it. So we'll have the white knight. There we go. You put the white knight around your neck. It is a powerful magical amulet which augments your reflexes. All because the knight rides roughshod over everyone and can travel around the board without, he can move over other pieces which are in his way by just riding past them. It is a powerful magical amulet which augments your reflexes. Increase your normal agility by 1 and increase your current agility to this level. So our sprained ankle is feeling much better, and we have an agility of 6 now. Meaning maybe the bishop would have given us an extra point of psychic ability, and the rook possibly vigor, or maybe something else. You leave the old man and go back to try the right-hand branch of the corridor. So far, so good, I think. Picture illustration on following page. Don't worry, we'll get to it. Further down the corridor, you pass through an archway and enter a vaulted room with a suit of armour standing on a plinth in the middle. If your own sword is damaged, you may replace it with the one held in the gauntlet of the armour. I imagine the suit of armour might you might object to this quite violently. Or will you cross the room and leave through the far door? Our sword is not damaged. Our magic sword is even less damaged. I don't need this sword. With its weirdly backwards facing quillons that are going to dig into the wrist slightly if used. You'd have to put your hands out to the side so it would come down. That is not a one-handed sword guard. That is definitely for a two-handed sword where you hope that comes down between your wrists rather than just bashing into your arm and getting in the way a lot. Yeah. So I have no need to rob this suit of armour of its long-deserved ancient heirloom weapon. Although if the suit of armour now attacks me, and if if removing its weapon meant it would be just trying to punch me, oh well. A short passageway brings you to a room with 2 other exits. A door of pitted worm-eaten oak in the opposite wall, and a smaller door to your right. On a hide-bound chest in the centre of the room rests a coil of stout black rope. That rope will probably come in very useful. Why is it black? If you decide to examine the chest, which I probably will, so be it. If you decide to leave the room, will it be from the door on the right or the door on the opposite wall? The door on the right may connect to something from the right-hand corridor, although I suspect the other door we didn't investigate does that. So probably the door straight ahead if we're using the Fighting Fantasy rules. Examine the chest then, while we still can. As you reach out your hand to open the chest, the black rope suddenly whips up and coils around your neck. You try to pull it off, but it tightens on your windpipe like a noose. Lose 2 vigor points. If you're still alive, you'd better think quickly or you will choke to death. Run for the door, try to cut the rope, or open the chest. I don't think opening the chest is necessarily going to help. Running for the door, we got a rope wrapped around our neck. We could break our neck if we run too hard. First off, let's take our damage. Then, try to cut the black rope. With the magic amethyst sword, it might matter which sword we use. So I'm calling it out now in advance. You try frantically to slice through the constricting rope, but the length and balance of your sword makes it difficult to wield for such a purpose. Indeed it does. Roll a die. 1 to 2 or 3 to 6. Well, watch for 1 to 2 come out now. Yep! Oh dear. That was the small chance, not the large chance. The sword slips from your hand and its razor-sharp blade cuts deep into your jugular vein. You try to scream as you see great gouts of your lifeblood spurt out onto the stone floor, but with the rope still closing around your throat, you manage no more than a strangled sob. You fall back across the chest. The last sound you hear, seemingly from very far off, is the snapping of your neck as the magical rope tightens its fatal grip. Well, there we have it. Thus ends the adventure of Alicia Felbane. Her neck snapped by a magic rope when she was doing so well. Ah, who's to say the heroes and heroines always win, eh? Well, that was unfortunate. I do think we were nearing the halfway to 2/3 point through the adventure, but I could be wrong. Now, generally, the Golden Dragon books are a bit shorter and towards the easier end of the scale than the Fighting Fantasy books. There's lots of players who complain game books are too easy. Those players can play books like Night Dragon or, you know, Legend of the Shadow Warriors or Creature of Havoc. Or, what was the pirate one? Blackbone Prophecy? Something like that. And it's not Blackbane Prophecy, that's different. Anyway, you know, the harder books. And there are some players who complain that game books are too hard. And they can play the easier books, like Grail Quest, or Golden Dragon, or Choose Your Own Adventure, or those TSR Choose Your Own Adventure books, which were like, you know, Dungeons and Dragons books. Can't remember the title of them anyway. Essentially, there's a sliding scale. Some books are harder, some books are easier. And I hadn't necessarily thought of it this way, but, you know, at Fighting Fantasy Fest a couple of weeks ago, yeah, the guys were saying, look, you know, some books are easier, some books are harder. We had... they said we had loads of fan mail from people complaining the books were too hard. What we didn't know is they were lying. So they made the hard books harder, and they got an overwhelming amount of fan mail from fans complaining the books were now too hard. Overwhelming compared to the ones who've been complaining they were too easy. So then they said, look, you know, some books are easier, some books are harder. It's like a sliding difficulty scale. Find the ones that are right for you, you know. And hey, I think I'll let this adventure end here. I don't think the intent for this series is to show a full walkthrough of every book, but rather, you know, to show a playthrough. Doesn't need to be complete, just as good as I can do. That being said, when it comes to book 3, I will be attempting a full playthrough because I am because I need to show something in the late adventure that relates to something very near the beginning. It's one of the few game books out there where one wrong choice very near the beginning can condemn your entire playthrough to failure. And it is a very vital, easy to miss, minor choice. Right. Well then. Actually, it's even worse than that, because they try to trick you into thinking it's something you shouldn't do by punishing you for doing the wrong thing with it, and then you're like, oh, okay, I'll say it here because it'll come to it. There's a bottle. There's a bottle down a side alleyway. You can ignore the side alleyway and just go on and continue on the adventure. If you go pick up that bottle in the side alleyway, you can drink the stuff in the bottle. It's poisonous. You die. Next time you play, you go, oh, I remember that poisonous bottle. I will not drink from that bottle. I will not. And then later on in the adventure, you need that bottle from the beginning of the adventure. The one that you thought was a trap to kill you. It wasn't a trap to kill you. It was a vital item you had to take with you. Otherwise, you fail, you die, game over, bye-bye. You didn't have the thing. And you could just walk past that side alleyway and never even notice it. You need it because it's the wine in the bottle, the alcohol in the bottle is vinegarized because it's there for so many centuries going off. And you can use the vinegar to dissolve some rust to get to something. And if you can't dissolve the rust, you lose the whole adventure. The enemies win. You just sit there and watch as they do their evil plan because you just can't get to where they are. You know, it's pretty serious. It's like, oh, you didn't have that item that you thought was an evil trap item that you should never touch again. Yeah, guess what? Yeah. That is an extreme. The necessity of that item that is a fatal auto kill earlier on. If you use it for what seems to be its only purpose for that adventure is a very strong memory for me. So, yeah, I might play the rest of this off screen, have some fun with it, but maybe you guys want to give it a go yourself. You know, I don't need to show you everything, but let me know in the comment section down below if you'd like to see another attempt at this book. In all fairness, I've not missed very much. I didn't go upstairs. There's not a lot upstairs, and it's not very healthy. So I didn't really miss anything. I was on the correct path. I hadn't made any really major mistakes. Maybe trying to open the chest would cause the rope to stop animating. I don't know. But essentially, any future playthrough would sort of be pretty similar up to this point. And then would continue on from here. I'm not saying the adventure is very linear, but up to this point, there's a distinct degree of linearity, which I would not have deviated from very much to get here. So, 1 down, 5 more heroes or heroines to go in the series. Let me know what you guys thought of this book anyway. I wasn't expecting my playthrough to end so suddenly there. I do think that as we were going through pages, I saw something about a hellhound and how you could give it a bone to make it like chew and be friendly and stop attacking you and let you go past. Like, if that is the blue marble carved into the shape of a bone that we found, with a 50-50 chance of not finding it, that means... Yeah, and that 50-50 is hidden behind a 1 in 3 chance of also inhaling the smoke from a candle. Oh! If we hadn't extinguished the candles, would it have been easier to find the secret compartment at the back of the... Oh, that's an interesting thought. Maybe turning out the candles was a bad idea. Anyway, there you have it. Like I said, let me know what you think of this adventure and our heroine's gruesome fate. And I'll see you all in the next video, whatever that'll be. I'll say goodbye for now, everybody, and see you all soon. Until next time. Stay heroic. Don't let the black ropes get you. Bye-bye.